Imagine for a moment. What if everything we thought we knew about our world was wrong? Close your eyes and picture it. The Earth, not as a beautiful blue sphere floating in the vastness of space, but as a flat, endless plane stretching infinitely in all directions. The very idea pulls at the fabric of reality, challenging the way we understand science, nature, and even our place in the universe. But if this were true, what would life be like? What would change in our daily existence, in the weather, in the very laws of physics that hold us together? Imagine a world where travel to the edge of the planet isn't a concept in science fiction, but a real and terrifying possibility. Imagine looking up at the sky, and instead of a dome of stars, perhaps a ceiling of unfamiliar constellations, or even something far more mysterious. Stick with me, because in the next 10 minutes we're about to unravel a reality that will make you question everything you thought you knew. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's start with the geography. If the Earth were flat, the very concept of how we understand the formation of continents and land masses would need to be rethought. The spherical Earth, as we know it, is shaped by the dynamics of tectonic plates, constantly shifting and interacting. This is why we have towering mountain ranges like the Andes or deep oceanic trenches like the Mariana Trench. But on a flat Earth, tectonic forces would behave differently, if they even existed at all. We may not see the Earth's crust moving in the same way, meaning fewer mountains, fewer deep oceans, and possibly a more uniform landscape. The world might resemble a giant plain with smaller, less dramatic landforms. And what about the idea of edges? A flat Earth must end somewhere, so what lies at the edge? Some theorists suggest that it could be surrounded by an enormous wall of ice, keeping the oceans contained. But what happens beyond that? Is there more land, or do we reach a point where everything simply stops? The existence of an edge would completely change how we view our planet. We might have entire governments or organizations focused solely on maintaining and protecting these boundaries, adding a layer of geopolitical tension we've never known. Moreover, travel as we know it would be vastly different. Air travel would no longer involve circling the globe, but rather navigating across a massive flat plain. The shortest routes would completely change, and circumnavigation as we know it would be impossible. One of the most significant changes on a flat Earth would involve gravity. On our spherical Earth, gravity works because all mass is pulled toward the center of the planet. This is what keeps us grounded, makes things fall, and allows the formation of everything from planets to stars. But on a flat Earth, gravity as we know it wouldn't function the same way. For starters, gravity might pull toward the center of the flat disk rather than equally in all directions. This would create enormous problems. If you stood at the center of the Earth, you might feel a normal gravitational pull, but as you moved toward the edges, things could get weird. You might feel gravity pulling you at a slight angle, making walking and standing upright more difficult the farther you go. This could result in life evolving very differently depending on where you live. Creatures near the center of the Earth might develop one way, while those near the edge might have entirely different physiological adaptations. Some have proposed that instead of gravity, the flat Earth might experience a uniform upward acceleration. Essentially, the flat planet would constantly move upward at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared to simulate the effects of gravity. But such a scenario would introduce new mysteries. What force is propelling the planet upward? How does this affect long-term stability? And could we ever truly explain why objects fall or why we don't simply float away? Without conventional gravity, all life would be affected, not just in terms of movement, but in how we're built. Our bones, muscles, and even our cardiovascular systems are designed to work with gravity. If the force of attraction worked differently, we might be taller, shorter, or even evolve stronger or weaker bones depending on how this force operates.
Now, before we dive any deeper into the bizarre and mind-bending consequences of a flat Earth, I want to take a quick moment to remind you, if you're enjoying this thought experiment, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And if you've got any wild theories of your own about what life on a flat Earth might be like, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. Let's keep the conversation going.
Now let's talk climate. On our current Earth, weather systems are dictated by its spherical shape and rotation. The rotation of the Earth causes phenomena like the Coriolis effect, which leads to the formation of cyclones, jet streams, and trade winds. The curvature of the Earth allows heat from the sun to be distributed unevenly, giving us different climates, seasons, and weather systems. On a flat Earth, none of this would apply. Without the Coriolis effect, hurricanes and cyclones would likely never form. The winds would move in unpredictable ways, possibly creating weather patterns that we can't even imagine. Tornadoes might not exist, and the patterns of rain and drought we rely on for agriculture would be thrown into chaos. But there's a bigger question. How would the sun's heat be distributed on a flat plane? If the Earth were flat, the areas closest to the sun's path would be scorching hot, while the regions further away would be in a permanent state of freezing. The sun could hover above the center of the flat disk, casting light in circles, but this would mean areas near the edge of the Earth would likely never see daylight, plunging them into eternal darkness and cold. This uneven heating would make life near the edges almost impossible, as the temperature differences would be extreme. Central regions might see blistering heat during the day and frigid cold at night. Imagine how difficult it would be to cultivate crops or sustain ecosystems. Our food supply chains and agriculture would collapse, leaving us scrambling to find ways to survive in a harsh and unforgiving world. And then we come to the oceans. One of the greatest mysteries would be the behavior of water on a flat Earth. On a spherical planet, the gravitational pull of the moon creates the tides, causing the oceans to rise and fall regularly. But on a flat Earth, the relationship between the Earth and the moon would be entirely different. Tidal forces might not exist at all, or worse, they could be chaotic, with oceans experiencing unpredictable floods and droughts. The moon itself might not even behave the same way. On our spherical Earth, the moon orbits around us, constantly moving in a predictable pattern. On a flat Earth, this orbit would likely change. Some flat Earth models propose that the moon would move in a circular pattern above the planet, acting almost like a light in the sky. But this would drastically alter the way we perceive the lunar cycle. Would we still see phases of the moon? Would eclipses still happen? Or would the moon and sun operate in ways we can't even comprehend? The lack of tides would also affect marine life. Many species, from fish to crabs, rely on the tides to guide their reproductive cycles and feeding patterns. With no tides, entire ecosystems would collapse, leading to a devastating impact on biodiversity. Coastal regions would become unrecognizable, with beaches either submerged or dried up, and human settlements dependent on fishing would face extinction. As you can see, if the Earth were flat, life would be unimaginably different. Our climate, our geography, even the very physics that govern our universe would change beyond recognition. It's a fun and wild thought experiment, but it also makes you appreciate the delicate balance of forces that come together to make life on this round Earth not only possible, but beautiful.